Hello and welcome to the Storrs Central Postgame Show. This is Aman Kidwai, joined by Graham Chamberlain. Excited to be speaking with you after a remarkable win for the UConn Huskies, 37-34 over Duke at the Rent. It was a packed house as well. It was loud from beginning to end as the Huskies had their largest attendance since the Michigan game in 2013. I think vibes-wise, we can all agree this was better than that. Duke, maybe not an amazing team, certainly still a good one, certainly still one that was favored to beat UConn in this matchup. And the Huskies just came out on top, made the plays that they needed to win. Graham, what's your take after this significant victory for the Huskies?
It was awesome. It was awesome. I'm not even going to do my usual hedging like, they didn't do this. No, I'm not even going to do any of that. It was awesome. It was great to see them beat a good team, like you said, a team that, they're currently in a logjam. There's 6 one-loss teams in the ACC. Duke is one of them. They got UVA next week without Chandler Morris. Then I think they have Wake and UNC. So they can easily win out and go to the ACC championship game. And so UConn may have a win over the potential ACC champion. That's awesome. It's amazing. I don't care if it's a down year in the ACC. None of that matters. It's just a huge game, a huge win. And, to your point about the crowd, it really did feel like the old days again for some of us old heads, for some of the newer fans, it was like that every single game from 2003 till what do you say, 2010? Maybe even the first part of 2011.
We will have to litigate that exact commentary later. But yes, it has been a while for sure.
Yeah. It was sold out for several years in a row. And it used to be this way. I think it helped immensely. I don't know that Duke necessarily knew what they were running into when they, I doubt when they scheduled this game, it's all right, UConn's going to be pretty good. They're going to have 38,000 people there. They're going to be loud. They're going to be on their feet for a lot of the game. It's going to be a tough environment. I don't know if they planned on any of that, but there it was. And it was just so huge. All the keys to the game, right? We needed Joe to show up. He absolutely showed up. Needed Skylar to show up. He did. Ramello Murphy came out of nowhere over 100 yards receiving, right? Defensively, they got several stops in the first half. That was so huge. They held Mensa to 89 yards in the first half. I think 220 something for the whole game, easily his lowest output of the year by 40 yards. Regardless of 34 points, the defense played a lot better today or yesterday than they have previously. Just 2 weeks ago against Rice, they had 30 missed tackles. Yesterday they had 9, right? Duke's longest reception was 26 yards. So they held Duke. They kept the ball in front of them. They made their tackles when they needed to, especially the corners and guys like Chadwick, Brinson, Pringle, Latu, who stepped in for an injured Lee Millette, I thought played very well, had a tip pass that eventually got intercepted by Brian Parham. And speaking of Brian Parham, what else is there to say about him?
Yeah.
16 tackles, obviously the strip sack to end the game. Just an incredible performance, an incredible season by him overall. So just a huge game for the program. And, there's 38,000 people there. I hope that many of them were maybe I'll come back next week for Air Force. That was a lot of fun. Or next year, these are very reasonably priced tickets. I might buy season tickets next year, right? And you start to build that again, which is something that Huskies need to do. And I'm sure the conferences that they'd like to be in might look at this crowd and be like, well, if they can do that every game, we might give them a chance. We need to be thinking about this program more than we have.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. But, we've been waiting to say something like that. Hey, maybe power conferences are noticing UConn. Have had no reason to say that at all. And now that momentum has piled up, success has piled up, and UConn, after a good season, is putting together a good one, maintained stable being good at football status despite turnover. thanks to its ability to recruit via the portal and coaching. And what I have noted throughout is just how impressive this is, that UConn's doing it with a different style of play than what they were doing in last year's 9-win season, right? Defense not as good. They're playing a more aggressive style to try and force turnovers. And then offensively, they're driven by the passing game, which nobody predicted, right? Nobody said this team's going to be about Joe Fagnano throwing 2,800 yards and, no interceptions and 25 touchdowns, and this team being run by the passing attack offensively. That is what's happening. So, tremendous credit to Joe, tremendous credit to the offensive coordinator. Gordon Samus took a lot of heat, took a lot of bullets from the fan base, not us necessarily, but we should say what we did. We did say, like, Joe Fagnano is good, but not great. He's now great. Like, he is now doing great.
Yes,
and
100%.
That's a big deal. That's actually a progression that has occurred across this season. He's been really, really consistent over these last 5 games in particular. And I just think, again, the confidence he's displayed, the confidence that his coaches had in him, and we saw it. We saw it in these games too. We discussed this, right? Even though they lost to Syracuse, good job with the game-tying field goal drive to at least push it to overtime. Disappointing to play not great at Buffalo and give up a game-tying touchdown, but they put together a game-winning drive to make it a non-issue. They even, again, maintained their poise, even though things didn't go the greatest, which was what we had noted in those points. And I will say, I'll put my hand up. I was telling people maybe a little bit privately, I was worried about this Duke matchup. Duke is not what it has been in the recent past, but I was thinking, look, this team just scored 46 on Clemson. They scored 45 on NC State. Our defense is not looking great. The run defense in particular, allowing 300 rushing yards to Rice does not inspire a lot of confidence for the future, for your ability to beat better teams, basically. And so I just think it's huge the way UConn came up late. I mean, that second half, every possession was a score. All but one was a touchdown, besides Duke's fumble at the end. Yeah. Every possession in the second half was a touchdown besides UConn's field goal to respond to the first touchdown. That's a crazy second half. That's where, Duke scores one of those touchdowns and you say, this is where UConn, seizes up offensively, turtles offensively, and the other team kind of runs away with it and takes this game. And that did not happen. Nope. UConn held on, big 4th down conversion on the go-ahead touchdown drive to Juice Farine. Yeah. And then Fagnano, I mean, what else is he doing? He had a good day scrambling, 51 rushing yards. He also rolls right and finishes that 2-point conversion, which gives UConn the cushion it needs to at least, not be up by 1 in that scenario. They would have been fine, but they might not have been. Who knows? It's an easier drive for the offense if you know that you just need a field goal versus knowing you need field goal to tie, touchdown to win. So it's just a super impressive demonstration of poise by UConn, and all the pieces were there, but you have to give a lot of credit to the coaching staff for the way they put it together. Like we said, Samus, they tried a bunch of trick plays, not just the fake punt, which was successful, which is great timing. I actually myself, like a lot of, offensive players at UConn, as we talked after the game, I myself walked away at that moment of the punt to go do something else and was like, they faked it. Oh, drive's still going. Sometimes in 2 possessions, you like to take a little break, check on some things, grab a water. So even I myself got a little caught off guard by the fake punt. They were trying other trick plays, some that didn't work, some that did, but it keeps the other team on its toes. Right. And it's what you have to do. There was a little bit of luck involved too. Let's not, some bounces, some deflections that still end up being completions. There's the one play where Fagnano gets hit as he threw. The ball goes way high. Skylar Bell still catches it somehow. Yeah. The play is a penalty, and UConn gets a first down because of a personal foul anyway. So there's a little bit of that, right? But it really does feel like the page has turned, and it's no longer the joke program that is fighting to gain respect. Yeah. Last point I'll make is just, these games against the power conference teams, again, whether they are great or not, Syracuse, Boston College. There's just a little bit more attention on what you do in those games nationally. And so when you win, that's huge for respect for the program. And so I think that's the real triumph of what's happened here. And it means really good things for this program, things that really we've been waiting to hope to say since 2013.
Yeah. I mean, there's so much there. Yeah, I want to start by just shouting out the coaches, like you mentioned. I mean, that fake punt by Coach Shearer, they don't win without that. They do not. Like,
Absolutely.
There was that offensive pass interference, which I did not enjoy, did not agree from my vantage point. And it felt like, oh my God, here we go. And I'm thinking, like, I think I texted you guys, and I'm like, Mora is going to go nuts in this press conference. Like, if that's the thing that loses UConn the game and the ACC refs, like, it is just going to be, I don't know. I wouldn't want to be in that room. But that was so gutsy. The execution was on point. And then, you mentioned Coach Samus. Yes, he's taking a ton. He has taken a lot of heat from the fan base, specifically for things like, getting a little too conservative in the games that they lost, trying to hold on to a lead. This one, I guess, is a little different because they were going back and forth in the fourth quarter. But, I mean, just to change up the playbook, the run game was not working. So fine. So try Terrence Smith in the Wildcat. I mean, it worked for a couple plays. Eventually teams figure out, like, okay, if that dude's lining up in this formation, this is going to be the play call, right? But I thought, also designed a lot more passes for, like, Cam Edwards to get involved. He had a few catches that were really big. Again, that keeps the defense on its toes. Now you have to keep your eyes in the backfield, right? You can't just be downfield looking at Skylar Bell, looking at Romello Murphy. They go, well, now I need to look underneath and find Cam Edwards because he's just going to gash us for 20 if we don't pay attention to him, right? So these are the things. I think he's gotten a lot better as a play caller throughout the season. And then, Matt Brock, that last drive was huge. We've seen so many times they just sit back and they try to play no doubles or no home runs, whatever you want to call it. And he was just sending pressure after pressure after pressure. And eventually it worked, right? It got to Mensah. Parham got there. He got the fumble, got the sack. But also they just made him uncomfortable throughout the game. He just he didn't have all the time in the world to throw. He did not scramble as much as he can, which is a positive thing for me. I think if I had to make just one thing about the defense, it would be like they probably needed to hold Duke to some field goals, like the way that the Blue Devils held UConn to some field goals, right? That would have probably given them a little bit of a cushion. But I think, like I said in my previews, Duke was going to score. They were going to score in this game. They were going to get points in this game. It's just like, that's it. It is what it is. But what I was encouraged by coming into this game was, the more I'm looking into Duke, I'm like, God, their defense is not that good. And we're just, and I'm like, and Joe is clicking on all cylinders. And I'm like, I know it's going to be a high scoring game. But I'm like, but I think we can do this. And I felt it in my gut yesterday morning. Didn't say anything because I'm certainly not going to jinx it, right? So of course it looks like now I'm trying to say, like, oh, I always knew. I didn't know, but I had a feeling yesterday morning, similar to the feeling I had against BC. I'm like, I think we could do this today.
Yeah.
And that's also a really great feeling to have, right? So many people have been with this program for a long time, and just this kind of game has come along often, and we've been disappointed. And again, can't stress enough. The coaches, the players, everybody executed at a high level, and they beat a good team. Finally, a legitimate, good team.
Yeah.
And, for the program, this is so huge. I know I was getting into this earlier, but it's like, now you got to think, okay, we're heading into portal season, whether we like it or not. It's coming, right? Joe exhausts his eligibility, I think, unless he gets an 8th year. I mean, I don't know. Who even knows the rules anymore, right? He might. I don't know. I'm not going to say for sure, because last year we all thought he was gone, and then, here he is again, right? Assuming everybody's eligibility we expect to run out does run out, if you're a transfer portal quarterback, you could be like, wow, look at what this guy's doing, right? He's getting reps. He's developing over the years. I mean, certainly a far better quarterback than he was when he first got here, right? And that's what you're looking for ultimately as a quarterback, right? Like, you want to get better and you want to be the best version of yourself you can be. Same with, that receiver with Skylar Bell. You can look at this program like, wow, I can put up a lot of numbers. I can get a lot of attention. I can find my way onto some NFL draft boards. And, depending on how well you play, the position's yours, right? So I think it makes UConn a lot more attractive. Similarly on defense, right? If you're a linebacker, why wouldn't you want to come to UConn right now? If you're, kind of tweener on a P4 roster or a good G5 linebacker or FCS linebacker, like, why would you not want to come to UConn right now? I mean, they just have proven that they can develop these linebackers and put them into great positions to, have hundreds, literally over 100 tackles every year. So I think this game is important for that too. It builds a fan base. It helps with recruiting, and it sounds like, oh, it's just one game, it's just Duke, but it's like it's the culmination of everything else, right? They're winning the games that they're supposed to, for the most part. I can't say 100% this year, but over the past 2 seasons, they've won most of the games that they should, and that's a huge turnaround. And, now you get College Game Day talking about UConn, right? Nick Saban's like, oh, Jim Moore's doing a great job at UConn, right? I think he was on Fox Big Noon Kickoff as well. They were talking about UConn. They were Kirk Herbstreit's, whatever that segment is, underdog of the day or whatever. Like, I don't think he took them straight up, but he's like, UConn's pretty good. This is a good roster, and they're playing good football. And all that stuff, all those little mentions help.
Yes.
It all helps. So yeah, I just wanted to shout out the coaches for being better. The players, obviously they're the one, the Jimmies and Joes get it done. And I've just seen so much growth in this team over the past couple seasons. And I'm happy for them, especially for some of the guys that have been here. I mean, we're starting to run out of those dudes that were here like in 2021. But these guys have gone through a lot here, and not an easy place to play and not an easy place to coach and recruit, and they're getting the job done. And I just, can't say enough good things about them right now.
Absolutely. Yeah. And like you're saying, it's not that it's like, oh, Duke is some amazing, like on a pure S&P, let's say, right? Like, this is the best opponent UConn has beaten recently. That's not true, but that's not the point. The point is, this is now a 7-win season right after a 9-win season. You've beaten 2 ACC teams this year. You beat Boston College for the second time earlier this year. It's about all the things you're achieving, right? And, to talk about the recruiting component, beating Boston College, even if they're a shitty 1-9 team today, and might end up, 1-11 or whatever.
They're not good.
What's up, Trevor? Even if, because they beat Boston College, that's big for recruiting. That is significant for recruiting. They've done it a second time now. So now when a recruit is thinking between Boston College and UConn, it's a decision. Whereas before, it was not. Okay, it was not a decision previously. Even the facts of the Syracuse game, in terms of regional recruiting, makes an impact. Okay, to say, okay, Q's, you're kind of a ninny in the ACC, and so we don't, if I think the situation here is better for me, maybe I do go here. The other thing, Jim Mora made a little recruiting pitch in his press conference on Saturday about his pro style offense. He said, we coach, we run different formations. We run a pro style offense, which is actually unique for the college level.
Yeah.
And he said, if I'm a recruit, if I'm thinking about wanting to, do the best for myself, for my professional career, it's to come here and be coached by, people who are preparing people for the pros. That's true for offensive line. It's true now for quarterback. It's definitely true for a wide receiver who they've put into this position. And you know what? There's even been some emerging talent at receiver beyond Skylar Bell, who incredible, right? Passed 1,000 yards, 13 touchdowns on the season. That's crazy. These are crazy numbers.
Yeah.
He's got 3 games left.
2 games left. Yeah.
2 regular season and a bowl. Yeah. But look, Raymelo Murphy, that's his breakout performance, you can say. And he's had 1 or 2 games here and there where he has like 0 or 1 catch, but he's been showing it throughout the season.
But he's had some where he has like 72.
Exactly. He has been the leading receiver before. I know that. And in yards, at least. Maybe not fantasy points. But Raymelo Murphy been solid through the year, so it's not like this came out of nowhere. And then Juice Vereen, that's tremendous.
Huge.
So they always had a lot of faith in him. I think we could tell that from the early going, just with the playing time he was getting. He's got 5 touchdowns all since the Boston College game.
Yep.
That's amazing. And it makes sense, right? And the UAB, no, not the UAB game, the FIU game and the Rice game, you could see the versatility that he brings and, being able to like come out as a receiver out of the backfield, and he can just be wide open in that situation, running that like wheel route or wheel post or whatever out of the backfield. And it's just like Juice Vereen wide open over there.
Yep.
Again, he had that huge 4th down catch. Right before that, he had a 9-yard reception. So I really like what we have been seeing from emerging receivers. We've touched on it a little bit, but Raymelo Murphy, Juice Vereen, John Nider, these are guys who can do things, right? And maybe they didn't have tremendous hype, in the offseason. Maybe they weren't transfer recruits with massive numbers the way or massive pedigree the way a Sheffield or Bell was, but they've come in and they've played, and I think all of it is really coalescing in a way that's just giving so much affirmation to the Jim Mora project at UConn. Again, as we have discussed, the Jim Mora project at UConn has not always been in an amazing place. Even like we said, going into last season, there were doubts, right? There were doubts. You lose that big opener at Maryland, not big in the game, but you lost big at Maryland. Still question marks at that point. Maybe even still question marks at different points in this season from the angriest people after certain losses, who are saying maybe this is not the right, who have so much to criticize about decisions about who's starting, who's playing, who's not. But right now, we're past that. Those people were always going too far in terms of saying it's definitely a failure. But there was the conversation of how much credit should we give the coaching staff here. We work for Storrs Central. We know a little bit about this. The NIL situation has improved, right? So there is a fair to say how much of this is Mora shifting landscape of college sports and UConn doing all right for itself, for its station. My answer is it kind of doesn't matter. It happened. Okay. And this is a shifting time in college sports, and UConn has gotten good and stayed good. So don't worry about that, right? Don't fret. I was starting to think like after the Rice loss, what if this season starts to go into a downswing, right? They lose to Duke, maybe they lose one more. And then there is, serious questioning of Mora. What will people say in that? What will people say in that? And I was saying I would be defending. I would say he's brought the O-line without NIL. He brought the O-line to a good place. He improved quarterback recruiting. He has a plan. There's an offense and defense situation that works. Even in 2022, what he accomplished was not making it look like it's impossible to succeed at UConn. Yeah. And then he has done a lot of things like make alterations on the schedule, right? That make things fit a little bit better. I think that was driven by him to get the likes of Ohio State off of the schedule, for example.
Sure.
I think, and then, again, the landscape is shifting, right? So even if there is a down year, sometimes you could attribute it to this state of college sports, right? Oh, well, we could have been better, but we lost like 3 of our best to the portal. And this offseason, there was also a lot of senior departures, and we couldn't just portal a whole new team. That was kind of my offseason take, which was like, are we sure we're going to be better, right? Because I don't know. And the answer is Yes, but it's because of coaching, in my opinion. And so that's why we maintain a lot of I think we should maintain a lot of confidence in what's going on here with the coaching and coaching staff. And Graham, they've got a shot at 10 wins this season.
Yeah,
We
first
thought
time
it was
since
possible.
1998.
Yeah, we thought it was possible in the middle of the season. We thought it was less possible, and it is now possible again. So, Air Force is a good run team. They can put up points too. So again, nothing should be counted. Anything can happen against Air Force or FAU.
No,
But we're
but
still
Air
happy.
Force also gives up a whole bunch of points. They
Yeah.
allow nearly 300 passing yards a game, and that's that average brought down a little bit by playing Army already. Like they give up a lot of yards. So if you enjoyed yesterday's game, if you enjoyed all the points in the back and forth, I think you'll be even happier next week when Air Force comes in.
Yep, that's right. Again, tremendous vibes at the Rent. We cannot emphasize enough. And just the roar, right? Even that first interception, early in the game, roar from the crowd, and I was like, haven't heard that in a while. Not in the first quarter. Certainly not in the first quarter of a mid-season game. So
during
we
basketball season, no less.
During basketball season, indeed, yeah. So we hope for those great vibes to continue. The final home game is next week. Huskies hosting Air Force. Kickoff is at noon. I'm going to try and get there as early as possible to get my final tailgating hours of the season in. We love it so much. It'll be senior day. A lot of people
get there, be there early, 11:30, be in that stadium.
A lot of people to honor
deserve it
on this day, especially. And that will do it for the show this week. Thank you all for watching.